Lightning forks across a midnight sky so black it swallows color. 4-1 frozen heartbeat, the deck of the Sea Serpent's Revenge is painted in silver and blood. You see Captain Red-Eye Malloy on his knees, rain sluicing off the brim of his tricorn like a waterfall. In his right hand glints a brass flask no bigger than a child's fist. In his left, the bony fingers of a sailor whose lips are cracked in blue. The sailor's uniform, once Royal Navy white, now clings in sodden rags that reveal ribs counting themselves like prison bars. Red-Eye tilts the flask. A single drop trembles on the rim, fat as a ruby, catching the next flash of lightning. It hangs there, defying gravity, defying every law of pirate greed you thought you knew. You realize this is the last swallow on the entire ship. Barrels below are either empty or filled with seawater from cannon shot leaks. That drop is liquid gold, liquid life, liquid absolution. Thunder cracks. The sailor's eyes flutter open, gray as storm water, and lock on the captain's single red iris. He whispers a word you can't hear over the gale, but you read it on his lips: mercy. The deck tilts, the drop quivers. And in that breathless second, you understand the stakes. Give the rum and maybe save a man who's hunted you across 3 oceans? Or tip it into your own mouth and stay alive long enough to outrun the gallows again. Red-Eye's scarred thumb brushes the sailor's cheek, smearing blood and rain into war paint streaks. You catch the glint of a royal signet ring on the sailor's pinky, proof he's no common deckhand but a lieutenant from the HMS Valor, the very frigate that flew Red-Eye's wanted poster from its masthead like a victory flag. The camera, your eyes, zooms in on that ring until the engraved lion seems to snarl at the pirate. One swallow of rum could ransom an entire crew from the hangman's noose, or sign every death warrant in the captain's coat pocket. A wave slams the hull, the flask jerks. The drop spills. But instead of falling into the sailor's mouth, it lands on the captain's own cracked lip. You feel the collective gasp of 20 pirates crouched in the shadows, cutlasses half drawn, waiting to see if their captain chooses survival or sacrifice. The sailor's hand twitches upward, trembling, brushing the pirate's beard in a gesture more intimate than any blade. Lightning flashes again, this time revealing the silhouette of sails on the horizon. Black flags? No. Union Jacks. Red-Eye sees them too, his jaw tightens. The HMS Valor has found its quarry at the worst possible moment. 30 cannons versus a crew already half dead from thirst. The sailor, voice ragged as torn canvas, manages 3 words: map, in, boot. His eyes roll back. Red-Eye's gaze snaps to the sailor's right boot, mud-caked, split at the seam. A corner of parchment peeks out like a guilty secret. Another lightning strike shows hand-drawn latitude lines, an island shaped like a skull, and a single word scrawled in blood-red ink: treachery. Rain drums like war drums. The British ships are close enough now that you can hear the creak of their rigging over the storm. Red-Eye's knuckles whiten around the flask. You feel the deck heave beneath your feet, matching the heartbeat of every man aboard. The captain's lips part, the drop of rum slides onto his tongue. He swallows, eyes never leaving the sailor's face. Then he does the unthinkable. He presses the now empty flask to the sailor's mouth anyway, as if the gesture itself could pour life back into dying lungs. The sailor's cracked lips form the ghost of a smile. Red-Eye leans in, so close their foreheads touch, and whispers a single sentence you can't catch over the wind. But you see the sailor's eyes widen, not in fear but in something like hope. The British cutter fires a warning shot. The cannonball screams overhead, ripping through the mainsail. Splinters rain like daggers. Over the chaos, Red-Eye's voice cuts clear: all hands, brace for boarders. But his eyes, one brown, one blood red, stay locked on yours through the 4th wall. And just before the screen cuts to black, he holds up the empty flask and rasps the question that will haunt every viewer until they click watch next. Tell me, mate, if mercy just bought you a one-way ticket to the gallows, would you still have given the rum? The lantern swings like a pendulum above the surgeon's cot, each arc carving shadows that crawl over ribs you could play like xylophone keys. Below deck the air is thick with wet hemp, gunpowder, and the copper tang of someone else's life leaving their body. You crouch beside the cot, close enough to feel the sailor's fever radiating against your cheekbones. His breath whistles through teeth clenched around a strip of leather, Red-Eye spelt, because screams above deck would bring the whole British fleet down faster than a falling mast. The sailor's eyes snap open. They are the color of storm water over coral, and for a moment you swear they reflect the entire ocean's worth of regret. He forces 3 words past cracked lips: map, in, boot. His right foot twitches. You glance down. The boot is split at the seam, salt-stiff leather curling like dead bark. Between the folds, a corner of parchment peeks out like a tongue caught telling a lie. Red-Eye edges closer, cutlass still dripping rain from the deck above. His knuckles are white around the flask, now empty but somehow heavier than when it was full. "If this is a trick, Lieutenant," he whispers, "I'll get you slower than sunrise." The sailor's laugh is a wet rasp. "Not a trick. A trade." He coughs, crimson speckles the cot. "My life for your freedom." The parchment slides free with the soft sigh of old secrets. It's no bigger than a prayer card, yet the moment it unfolds the lantern flame bends toward it like it's hungry. Inked in midnight black is a coastline shaped like a skull, crossbones formed by two rivers. At the eye socket of the skull, a red X bleeds through the fibers. Beneath, in hurried script, asterisk Aztec gold, but beware the crown's teeth. Asterisk your pulse sinks with the creak of the hull. Gold means pardons. Gold means every scar earned under the black flag suddenly worthwhile. But the second line, asterisk crown's teeth asterisk, means cannon muzzles smiling from hidden coves. A splinter of thunder rocks the ship. The lantern jerks, throwing the map's shadow across the ceiling like a ghost raising its hand. You trace the latitude with a trembling finger, 18 degrees 15 minutes north. The same coordinates burned into the quartermaster's memory after a drunken cartographer sold them for a bottle of Madeira 3 ports ago. Coincidence? Or prophecy? Red-Eye's voice drops to a growl. He's Royal Navy. Could be bait. The sailor's hand shoots out, clamping around the captain's wrist with surprising strength. You notice the ring then, lion rampant, ruby eyes, official seal of the king's own intelligence service. "I was sent to plant that map," he rasps. "But the gold is real. And the trap? It's for the Spanish, not you." Another cough. "Help me live and I'll help you steal it first." Below deck, the crew's whispers seep through the planks like rising water. You catch fragments. British frigate closing, 3 cables, no wind to run. The ship is a sitting duck. Above, boots pound, Black Bart barking orders to load chainshot. The sailor's grip tightens. "Listen. The island has a reef only I know how to thread. Miss it by 10 feet your splinters. Miss it by 20 your legend." His eyes flick to the flask in Red-Eye's hand. "That rum you gave me? It bought you 30 minutes. After that, the reef buys you eternity." You feel the ship heel as the first British cannonball screams overhead. Dust showers from the beams. The map flutters like a trapped moth. Red-Eye studies the Skull Island, then the sailor's face, then the ring glinting like a tiny, treacherous sun. For the first time you see fear in his red iris, not of death but of choosing wrong again. The sailor's next words come in a rush as if he's racing the fuse of his own life. "There's a second map tattooed on my shoulder blade. Ink mixed with gunpowder. Burn it off and you'll see the safe channel. Burn it wrong and the powder sparks, takes half the ship with it." He tries to laugh, it comes out a sob. "Your surgeon's hands or the hangman's rope. Pick your poison, Captain." Above, another crash, this time with splintering. The lantern swings so violently it nearly snuffs out. In that strobe light of darkness, you glimpse the crew's faces peering down the hatch, hungry, terrified, ready to rip the sailor apart for answers. Red-Eye stands, parchment clenched in one fist, empty flask in the other. He looks at you, yes you, through the fourth wall. "So tell me, mate," he growls over the rising roar of battle, "do we trust the map that could make us kings, or the dying man who swears it's a crown of thorns? Because in 60 seconds either way the ocean decides." The dawn sky is the color of a fresh wound when Red-Eye drags the dying lieutenant onto the quarterdeck. Wind screams through torn canvas like a jury delivering a verdict. Behind them, the Union Jack topsail of HMS Valor looms so close you can see the white dots of Marines lining the rail, muskets ready. The crew forms a ragged semicircle, 23 men, all thirst-crazed, all staring at the fresh brand glowing on the lieutenant's shoulder blade. The surgeon's knife still smokes. Where skin once bore a delicate map, gunpowder ink now crackles, tiny sparks racing the lines of latitude like fire ants. The smell is sulfur and pork left too long on a spit, sweet, acrid, unforgettable. Every spark pops with a miniature hiss that sounds exactly like a fuse. Because Red-Eye realizes with a lurch, it is a fuse. Lieutenant Finch never said burn it off, he said burn it wrong. Finch sags between two burly deckhands, blood and seawater dripping from his bare feet. His voice is a ghost in the wind. 30-second trail, from shoulder to heart. After that, the powder reaches the cartridge in my boot. He lifts one shaking foot. Tucked inside the heel, visible now, sits a brass cylinder no bigger than a man's thumb. Enough powder to punch a hole through the keel and send the sea serpent's revenge to the sand in flaming splinters. Black Bart steps forward, cutlass glinting like a grin. Cut the leg and toss it overboard, he growls. Lose 1 foot, save the ship. The men murmur, half agreement, half horror. But Red Eye sees the calculus in their eyes. 1 leg, 1 life, 1 story to tell in every tavern from Port Royal to Nassau. Finch shakes his head, sweat carving pink rivers through the soot on his cheeks. Boots rigged to pressure. Remove it, boom. Cut the leg, boom. Only safe path is the map. Follow the sparks exactly, burn the trail clean before they reach the cylinder. His eyes, those stormwater eyes, flick to Red Eye. But you'll need steady hands. 1 tremor and the ship becomes a crater. Above them, the first British cannon thunders. A ball whistles overhead, slicing a furrow in the mainmast that sprays splinters like shrapnel. The deck tilts, men stagger. The sparks on Finch's shoulder jump faster now, racing the countdown. 28 seconds. Red Eye feels the crew's gaze settle on him like hot coals. He looks at the flask in his belt, empty, useless, and then at the men who once swore to follow him to hell and back. He sees loyalty warring with survival, sees the glint of gold dreams in every bloodshot eye. He lifts his voice over the wind. We vote. Loyalty to me or loyalty to the gold that map promises. Choose now. Hands shoot up. Voices clash. Black Bart's faction wants the leg gone, the boot tossed, the ship saved, even if it means abandoning the Aztec prize forever. Young Tomlin, the powder monkey, argues for the burn. 1 chance at pardons, Captain. 1 chance to be kings instead of corpses. The sparks hiss louder. 22 seconds. Finch's breath hitches. They're loading chain shot next. They'll cripple the rigging, board us while we're burning. You'll hang before the powder even sparks. His voice cracks but his gaze is steady. Or sail under the Union Jack, take the gold and live to tell the tale. Red Eye kneels. He presses the flat of his dagger against the glowing trail, feeling the heat bite into the steel. The crew falls silent. Even the wind seems to hold its breath. He looks up, not at Finch, not at the crew, but straight through the lens at you. Tell me true, mate, he says, voice low and deadly calm. Would you risk 23 lives on the steady edge of this blade, or condemn 1 man to save them all? Because in 15 seconds either choice becomes a tombstone. The sparks race faster, a miniature comet tail racing toward the brass cylinder. The British cannons roar again, chain shot scything through the air. Ropes snap, canvas flaps like dying gulls. Down on the deck, the crew's faces are white with salt and fear. Red Eye's hand doesn't tremble. Not yet. But the fuse is burning and the ocean is waiting to see which story ends here. The pirate who chose mercy or the legend who chose to live. The island rises from the sea like a skull cracked open by giants, black basalt cliffs for teeth, a yawning cave for a throat, and a reef of coral blades grinning beneath the foam. The sea serpent's revenge limps into the mouth of the channel, sails shredded, deck awash with crimson where chain shot found flesh. Overhead, gulls wheel and scream in voices that sound eerily human. Red Eye stands at the bowsprit, dagger still pressed to the powder trail on Finch's shoulder. Sparks crawl within inches of the brass cylinder in the lieutenant's boot. 5 seconds, maybe 6. Behind them, the British line of battleship Valor looms so close its shadow swallows the sun. You can see the gun ports open like iron eyes, each muzzle a pupil dilated with murder. Finch's voice is a rasp against the wind. Hard A port. 2 degrees starboard at the black rock shaped like a broken tooth. Miss it and the reef tears us open. Trust me. His eyes, those stormwater eyes, are wide but there's no tremble in them. Only certainty. Red Eye hesitates. The black rock is a fong jutting from the surf, foam boiling around it like venom. 1 mistake here and the serpent becomes driftwood. He glances at the crew. Black Bart grips the wheel, knuckles bone white. Young Tomlin stands ready at the chains, sounding line in hand, tears cutting channels through the soot on his cheeks. The powder fuse crackles. 3 seconds. Now! Finch shouts. Red Eye drags the dagger across the powder trail. Flame kisses steel, races the final inch, and dies. A perfect cut. The cylinder hisses once, then goes silent. For 1 heartbeat the only sound is the reef growling beneath the keel. Then the serpent heels hard, timbers groaning as she scrapes past the black rock with inches to spare. Coral claws rake the hull but the planks hold. A cheer tears from the crew's throats, ragged, desperate, alive. But the triumph lasts less than a breath. A shadow falls across the deck. The Valor has followed them into the channel, sails reefed, maneuvering with impossible precision. The British captain, face pale beneath a powdered wig, leans over the rail, spyglass glinting. His voice carries across the water like a funeral bell. Strike your colors, pirates. You've nowhere left to run. Red-Eye raises the black flag higher. Run? We're just getting started. Then the world tilts. A second ship explodes from the mouth of the cave, black sails, red serpent coiled on a field of gold. Not British. Not pirate. A ghost ship thought lost to Davy Jones. The Crimson Widow, flagship of Red-Eye's old quartermaster, Silas Crowe, mutinied and vanished 5 years ago. Her hull is scarred but seaworthy, her crew silhouettes of men who should be dead. Crowe stands at the bow, cutlass raised, grin sharp as a reef shark. Finch's laugh is ragged. Surprise, Captain. You're not the only one who read the map. His hand moves to a hidden pocket, pulls out a second parchment, identical skull, identical red X, but this one bears the royal seal. His Majesty's privateers at your service. The king wants that Aztec gold and he's willing to pardon every soul aboard, if you sail under his flag. The crew freezes, weapons half raised. Red-Eye stares at Finch, at the seal, at the ghost ship, at the British cannons now trained on both pirate vessels. The reef growls louder, tide shifting, ready to chew wood and bone alike. Crowe's voice booms across the narrowing gap. Choose Red-Eye. Fight for the crown or die for the black. Either way, the gold is mine. Red-Eye looks at the empty rum flask clenched in his belt, metal still warm from Finch's dying grip. He looks at his crew, faces streaked with blood and hope. Then he looks at the Skull Island, its cave mouth yawning wide, promising either salvation or a graveyard. Finch steps forward, voice low, urgent. One word, Captain. Aye, and we're privateers with letters of marque. Nay, and we're pirates with no tomorrow. The British cannons flash. The reef snarls. The ghost ship's crew raises cutlasses in silent salute. Red-Eye draws breath. The word hangs on his tongue like a blade. 6 months later, the Caribbean dawn arrives in molten copper. The deck of the Golden Serpent, once blackened, now gleaming with fresh paint, glows beneath a sky the color of forgiven sins. Where splinters once flew, polished brass now catches the light like captured sun. Crew members in crisp Royal Navy blue stand at attention, yet their eyes still carry the wild glint of men who once danced with death beneath a black flag. Red-Eye stands at the prow, no longer captain of pirates, but commodore of His Majesty's private fleet. The empty rum flask hangs from a new ribbon, deep crimson, the color of loyalty reborn, around his neck. It clinks softly against the metal the king himself pinned there only yesterday, a lion rampant clutching a ship's wheel. The irony is not lost on him. Behind him, the captured Spanish galleon Santa Ynez wallows low in the water, her hold bursting with Aztec gold. Coins the size of saucers spill across the deck in a waterfall of light, each stamped with the face of a long-dead emperor. Young Tomlin, powder monkey no longer, now Lieutenant Tomlin, runs his fingers through the treasure, tears streaming. Enough to buy every mother in Port Royal a stone cottage, he whispers, voice cracking. But the gold is not the true treasure. Not today. Finch, Lieutenant Elias Finch, now wearing the same navy coat but with a captain's epaulette, steps forward. The powder tattoo on his shoulder has healed into a faint white scar shaped like a compass rose. He carries something wrapped in sailcloth. When he unfolds it, the crew falls silent. Inside lies the second map, the one inked in gunpowder and blood. It is intact, every line unmarred. Without this, Finch says, voice carrying across the hush, we'd be driftwood on the reef. Red-Eye takes the map, studies the Skull Island one last time, then folds it with reverence. And without mercy, he replies, lifting the flask, we'd be ghosts haunting our own regrets. He unscrews the cap. The inside gleams, not with rum but with seawater and sunlight. He tips a single drop onto the deck. It lands on a gold coin, rolling until it catches in the eye socket of the Aztec emperor's engraved face, an offering, a baptism. The crew erupts in cheers that shake the masts. Black Bart, now Quartermaster Bartholomew Grant, throws his hat into the air. It spins, caught by wind, and lands at Red-Eye's feet. To the captain who traded rum for redemption, he shouts. The men echo him, voices merging into a roar that drowns out even the gulls. But the moment is not over. From the quarterdeck, a woman steps into view. Her dress is simple calico, but her eyes are the same stormwater gray as Finch's. She carries a baby, barely a year old, with a shock of red hair that matches Red-Eye's own. The child gurgles, reaching for the flask. Red-Eye lifts the ribbon over his head and places the empty vessel into the baby's tiny hands. For Sarah, he says softly, naming the wife he lost to fever before the voyage began. And for every soul who never got a second chance. Finch steps closer, voice low. The king has another mission. A ghost ship off the Barbary coast. Crewless, but sailing under a black flag older than any we've ever seen. He produces a sealed letter, wax stamped with the royal lion. Only you can captain it. Only this crew can survive it. Red-Eye breaks the seal. Inside, a map drawn not in ink but in ash. It depicts a coastline shaped like a serpent devouring its own tail. At the center, a single word: eternity. The baby laughs, shaking the empty flask like a rattle. Coins clink around his feet. Red-Eye looks at his crew, at the horizon bleeding gold into the sea, at the flask now cradled by the next generation. He smiles, the first true smile in 30 years of salt and blood. Set sail for the Barbary coast, he commands. We've got eternity to conquer.